bag of Skittles. George Zimmerman was armed, carrying a loaded 9mm pistol. Still, the jury saw Trayvon as the threat. Zimmerman went free. A day after the verdict, Allissa Garza wrote a love letter to Black people on Facebook. It read, "I continue to be surprised at how little Black lives matter. Black people, I love you. I love us. Our lives matter." Her friend and fellow organizer, Patrice Kahn Colors, reposted her words on Twitter with the hashtag behind it, #Black Lives Matter. Although people from all walks of life gathered to protest the Zimmerman verdict that year, the #Black Lives Matter hashtag and movement peaked truly in Ferguson after Michael Brown was killed in 2014. In the years that followed, scholars gathered more than 40 million tweets that were tagged with either #Ferguson, #Black Lives Matter, or both. In my own early days of observing the Ferguson uprisings, I remember something else kept jumping out at me. Amid all of the sensationalized coverage of tear gas and flames, I noticed something smaller and quieter. A steady sea of protester smartphones. I pored over photographs from the demonstrations. I paused videos I found on Twitter. I peered at live stream footage. And frame after frame, I saw Black people clutching their cell phones, gazing back in defiance. This spirit was familiar to me, since I had spent the last several years as a college professor training people from African descent around the world to report news using only cell phones. I was working at a historically Black college in Maryland in 2010 when I got the idea to launch a mobile-first newsroom. This meant my students would report news using only smartphones and tablets. This was not mere curricular innovation, though. This was survival. As I said in a 2010 National Public Radio interview, my students did not feel safe carrying expensive camera equipment around in the beautiful yet blighted section of Baltimore where our campus was located. It was a common occurrence for students to be robbed at gunpoint or knife point for their belongings in broad daylight. Baltimore was a city that had been home once to stable blue-collar work, but the steel mills were gone. Jobs on the docks, factories, and rail yards were gone. And as in many other deindustrialized cities across the United States, crime spiked as people fought to feed themselves. My students, all of whom were African American, would discuss these things at great length in my news writing class. They wanted to be journalists, but they were afraid to be seen, afraid to see. "What if you had a smaller news camera?" I asked them one day in the fall of 2010. I explained that Apple had debuted a new smartphone that summer, which had a front and rear-facing camera for the first time. I remember one of my students exclaiming that the iPod Touch MP3 player had the same capabilities as the iPhone, and that it cost far less. I reasoned that we could buy 10 iPod Touch devices for the price of one fancy news camera, and I set off to raise the money. A few months later, I was the recipient of a Knight Foundation New Voices grant, which awarded me $25,000. I launched the Mojo Lab. Mojo, I decided, would be short for mobile journalism. The Mojo Lab was the first and only such project in the country at the time. I watched my students' confidence grow. They were filming stories about a city they loved but that care forgot. They were becoming more street smart about how they moved as journalists. I was growing too. Mobile journalism was taking me around the world. I was invited to South Africa in June 2011 to teach 20 HIV-positive girls how to record documentaries about their lives with mobile devices. Then, just after the Arab Spring revolts in Egypt in September 2011, I was invited to bring mobile journalism to 40 women in Morocco. My students crisscrossed the country, stopping in Marrakesh, Casablanca, Tétouan, Safi, and Rabat, to ask citizens of all ages their opinions on the uprisings in Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya.